my water just broke. I felt like things really intensified.
She was right there and she was coming.
It was an amazing feeling.
I'm going to cry just thinking about it. I could feel her head.
We heard her cry. We were squeezing hands and she was screaming.
I'm Bryn Hunt Palmer, and you're listening to The Birth Hour. This podcast is designed as a safe place to come together and share childbirth stories. Stick around and join us to hear informative and empowering birth journeys from all over the world. Today's episode is sponsored by Zenith Health. Navigating pregnancy can be overwhelming, especially when it feels like everyone has an opinion, not to mention the late night Googling and social media rabbit holes we've all found ourselves in. Zenith Health helps you navigate pregnancy with access to real evidence, bringing you peace of mind through data. Imagine if your Google searches only returned answers based on real evidence from research studies, clinical guidelines, and physician-authored content. Instead of giving you more opinions, Zenith's Pregnancy Evidence Navigator, or Penny tool, provides exactly that, and it's completely free to use. Next time you have a burning question like a new symptom, a supplement you're unsure about, or a question as you're planning for birth, spare yourself the panic Google and ask Penny your question for a real-time, unbiased review of the evidence at www.zenithhealth.io. At the same time, what really excites me about Zenith is that they've also started the Pregnancy Evidence Project, which is the first large-scale research project wholly focused on learning from the millions of pregnancy and postpartum experiences already happening in the real world. If you choose to opt into this, your pregnancy journey becomes part of the evidence that helps future moms make informed decisions and drives research forward. I'll be discussing both Penny and the Pregnancy Evidence Project in depth with the founder of Zenith, Abigail, at the end of this episode, so stay tuned for that conversation. We would also love to welcome you into our listener supporter group via Patreon. That's at patreon.com/birthhour. And by becoming a Patreon supporter, you get access to all of our archived episodes. This podcast launched in 2015, so we have over 800 episodes in the archives that are not in the main podcast feed. So you can get your fill of birth stories. And you'll also get access to our private Facebook group for Patreon members, which is a great place to honestly just to search the past posts to get answers to questions, but then of course to ask new questions, find community. It's a really, really great supportive group of people. So I highly recommend joining that. We would love to have you there. We also do monthly Zoom calls with our Patreon supporters, and you get an opportunity to enter your birth story via a different submission form than everyone else uses, and we choose 2 Patreon members each month to share their birth stories. So that is again at patreon.com/birthhour. And of course, I have to mention our Know Your Options online childbirth course, which started just a couple years after the Birth Hour started, and it's really grown into an amazing community. You get lifetime access with that. So we have members returning for subsequent births and things like that. For the content of that course, I partnered with my friend Stephanie, who is a childbirth educator. She's also a birth and postpartum doula, a lactation consultant, and now a sleep consultant as well. So she has so much knowledge, and she really believes in evidence-based teaching. And that's been the whole goal of that course. So I'm grateful to everyone in that community. I know I'm not as active on social media with my personal life now that my babies are a little bit older, but if you want to get to know me more, I'm in those communities all the time. I'm on the Zoom calls every month, and I just love having that personal connection with the Birth Hour community. Today's birth story guest is Connie, and she's going to be sharing her experience deciding to become a single mother by choice and getting pregnant as far as finding sperm, especially as a woman of color, and IVF, and then going on to finding out she was having twins and raising twins during the pandemic. All right, let's hear from Connie. Hi, Connie. Welcome to the Birth Hour. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Bryn.
Yes, I'm so excited to hear your story. But before we do that, can you tell listeners a little bit about you and your family?
Sure. So by way of introduction, my name is Connie Rutherford. My dad was in the military, so my formative years were spent in Okinawa, Japan. And yes, that was the place that the first Karate Kid was supposed to have taken place at. And then we moved to Oklahoma so that he could retire. I attended high school and then the University of Oklahoma. But I always had big dreams of moving to the Big Apple, New York City. I finally achieved my goal when I started working on Wall Street. Naturally, I focused on my career and the years flew by. So my story includes egg freezing to becoming a single mother by choice. I'm 46 years old. I'll be 47 in a few months. And I'm a proud mother to 5-year-old twin girls. We live in New Jersey, and I just recently self-published a book titled Searching for Tadpoles, which talks in depth about my journey to becoming a single mother by choice.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm excited to hear about kind of that decision and then what the process was like to get pregnant.
Perfect. I'm going to break down my story in 3 parts, and I'll provide some nuggets along the way.
Okay.
Listening to some of the other birth stories, I've personally found the information that's been provided very helpful and useful, even though I'm not going to have any more kids. But I do find it useful. So the 3 parts, I'm going to start with my egg freezing and then into fertilization, and I will end it with my pregnancy, birth, and postpartum.
Okay, great. Yeah, let's go ahead and jump in wherever you feel comfortable.
Perfect. So let's start with the egg freezing. Let me take you back. Just like I mentioned in my introduction, I was 38 working on Wall Street, and I was sweating bullets. And it wasn't because the markets were volatile. I was just at that age that I knew that time really wasn't on my side when it came to having children. So I decided then I would freeze my eggs. I went to this very prestigious fertility clinic in New York City, one of those places that gets ranked number 1 on like the best fertility clinics in America kind of list. They hosted this general informational session about IVF, and honestly, I felt completely out of place. Out of all the women, and actually they were couples, there were only 2 of us there for egg freezing. I was the only woman of color, and that's when I realized, and this is, I know it's kind of funny, but I didn't realize that like the egg freezing and IVF use the same process to retrieve the eggs. The only difference is that you don't fertilize or implant them afterward. You just freeze them.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, had no clue. So simple enough, right? Until you see the price tag. And one cycle was $10,000. And that include medication or storage. Yeah. So if you retrieve just 1 egg, and just 1, and you wanted more, that's another 10 grand, plus the cost of medication. And of course, insurance didn't cover egg freezing back then. And honestly, many still don't. So that's my nugget number 1. Ask the hard questions. It's your body and your money. Don't be shy. I asked the doctor at the prestigious clinic how they compared to another startup clinic I was considering. And you know what? She was honest. She told me, actually, the doctors at that other clinic trained here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. So that answer saved me thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So yes, I froze my eggs at 38. It was emotional. I questioned myself a lot, especially the question of why did I wait so long? For those who don't know, at and after age 35, you're officially labeled AMA, or advanced maternal age, in the fertility world. Not exactly the title us ladies strive for.
It's better than the one they used to use.
Yeah, that's true. Getting a little better as time progresses. But it is what it is. So I went through 2 egg freezing cycles and ended up with 16 eggs. So I was content, at least for a little while, which leads me to the second part, fertilization.
Okay.
Like a lot of us, I grew up believing in the fairy tale that I'd meet the one, get married, have 2.5 kids, a dog, and a white picket fence. But my life had other plans. Even if you do meet your person, the harsh truth is getting pregnant can be really, really hard. And in my family, no one had fertility issues. In fact, it was like the opposite. Seemed like it was a little too easy for women in my family to pop out babies. Growing up, my parents used to threaten to kick me out if I got pregnant in high school. I have a Black military dad, traditional Taiwanese tiger mom, so you kind of get the picture. After freezing my eggs, I went through a few failed relationships, and my dad had also successfully battled stage 4 prostate cancer. I was approaching the big 4-0, and the anxiety hit hard. I really started to wonder what my future would look like. I had always dreamed of becoming a mom. In fact, like when I was young, I used to doodle like baby names in my diary. So I have all kind of baby names. So after a soul-searching trip to the beautiful Caribbean island of Grenada with my bestie, I decided to become a single mom by choice. And that's when I entered the world of donor sperm. And let me tell you, finding a donor felt a lot like online dating, just like the dating apps. There weren't many Black men or Black donors. What I learned is that sperm banks do not typically market to the Black community. There was an article in the Washington Post, I think in 2022, called "America Has a Black Sperm Donor Shortage." Yeah, becoming a donor is actually quite rigorous. I kind of thought of it like, how you used to like just donate blood. I thought it would be a little bit easy. Yeah, there are many checkups and blood work done for the donor. The sperm bank would actually quarantine the sperm once the donor passes all the health tests because some health issues can show up after some time. Yeah, so online, I set my filters like CMV negative, since I'm -2, and ethnicity. And those two filters alone spit out not more than like 50 potential matches out of thousands.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but I found him, my one, and, it turns out he came in a vial. The magic question, how many vials do I need? Like I said earlier, my family, no one had any issues. So I'm thinking it shouldn't take that much time. I'm also risk averse. And this donor was retiring, meaning that he wasn't going to stay in the program to donate more. So I stocked up, and those vials were like $1,000 a pop. So,
oh my gosh.
Yes, I didn't realize the cost of that. Yes.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing these costs because we've had this discussion before, but I don't think we've heard actual numbers. And I'm sure it can vary by like insurance and region and everything, but it's good to just hear from someone.
Yes. And this was in 2017. So I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, like everything else, it's probably doubled.
Exactly. So I buckled up for the roller coaster ride. I did 3 IUIs with different doctors each time. One even struggled with the catheter, which felt like a sign. None of the IUIs worked. So next, my primary doctor suggested a hybrid IVF. Thaw some of my frozen eggs and try a fresh IVF cycle simultaneously.
Okay.
I was excited to try something new, but my body didn't respond well to the meds. And I was mad at my body. Like, why was it failing me now when I had already gone through the same exact process 2 times with egg freezing? We pivoted and continued to thaw 9 of my 16 eggs. All 9 survived the thaw, which I was very happy about. 6 were viable to be fertilized by ICSI, intracytoplasmic sperm injection. And I have to say, the science is just so fascinating. If anyone's interested, please look it up. But it's a medical procedure where the most healthy and motile sperm is injected directly into the egg.
Yeah, I've seen videos of it. It's very cool.
Yeah. So 5 became embryos. Since I froze eggs that were advanced maternal age, I was advised to do PGS testing, the one that checks for chromosomal abnormalities. And I thought, out of 5 embryos, at least 1 will be normal, right? Wrong. 4 were abnormal and the 5th inconclusive. And of course, I was heartbroken. My 38-year-old eggs were my insurance policy. So that night, I was bawling, and through my tears, I stumbled on an article in the Cut magazine called A New Last Chance. And it talked about how some doctors believe that PGS testing isn't always reliable and that the tests misdiagnose too many embryos as abnormal. And some embryos labeled abnormal can possibly self-correct with time. So I'm just going to pause right here. I just want to be clear to everyone that I'm not against PGS or PGT testing. I mean, that's not what I'm saying here. I just want women to be aware and to do their own research and make the best decision for themselves. So we attempted another fresh IVF cycle. I was numb, weary, just really going through the emotions. I think, honestly, at this point, I lost hope. But this time, my body responded to the medication. I got 10 eggs, 6 fertilized, 5 embryos. So for myself, I skipped PGS and went old school. I just asked the embryologist to grade and rank them by morphology, which is just the study of the form and structure. Like what you can do is like look at the cell symmetry. So, the embryologist ranked them, and my doctor suggested that we transfer the top 2 ranking embryos instead of 1, since I spent so much time, physical and mental energy, and money. And we're probably all familiar, but those doctors love to rattle off the statistics. And so he was telling me transferring to, everything about that, which I can summarize as with that neither will probably work. But, the great thing about him is that he always ended with, it only takes 1. And so that's my nugget number 2. Choose a doctor and a team who supports you, not just medically, but also positively.
Yeah.
Fertility isn't logical. There's a lot of ambiguity, and you need someone in your corner, someone who is compassionate, of your fertility plight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we transferred to. I went on with my life without much thought or expectations because, I already knew what the end result would be. And it was confirmed when I started spotting.
Mm-hmm.
I called to cancel my blood tests, but the director of operations, she insisted that I come in for data gathering purposes. And for me, those are the magic words, because I was like, okay, what can we tweak for next month,
Yeah.
So I begrudgingly made the trip to Manhattan. And to be honest, I was cursing under my breath. I was exasperated for wasting my time. And I was so irritated that when I got home, I had to go for a run to kind of settle down and just clear my head. So after my run, the director of operations called, and I just braced myself for the impact. And she said, "Connie, you're pregnant. And your HCG levels are high. You might be pregnant with twins."
Oh, wow.
I was like, wait, huh? What? And the joy that was erupting came to an abrupt halt. I mean, I was never expecting to get pregnant, but much less with twins. So the juicy part 3, the pregnancy, birth, and the postpartum. So soon after the confirmed pregnancy of twins, I graduated from my beloved fertility clinic and found an OB. And that's my nugget number 3. Find an OB early so you can tour the birthing facility, like if you choose to deliver at the hospital. Since I was having twins and my age, I wanted to ensure that there was a NICU on site just in case. And I'm going to also admit here that I did not know that not every hospital has a NICU. And sometimes the closest NICU is actually quite far. So I had all the tests done, my maternity 21, nuchal exam, maternal and fetal echo and EKG. Everything looked fine until one blood test from the nuchal exam came back. And the nuchal exam is really where they measure the back of the baby's neck just to see if if there's a lot of fluid or not. It can explain some things. So that blood test that came back from the nuchal exam, it said that I was 1 in 141 chance of Down syndrome, one of the babies, or it could have been both. Who knows? The doctor that performed that nuchal exam was pretty cold and lacked empathy. She advised me to talk to a genetic counselor and to get amnio. And that was it. Yeah, it rattled me. And, going back to my nugget number 2, work with doctors that are pleasant and positive. In a span of less than 5 minutes, this doctor flipped my entire world upside down. And thankfully, 2 OBs helped me make sense of the results. One said that's like less than 1%. It's very low. There's no need for amnio. Amnio can be quite risky, right? It can cause, to have a miscarriage. So the other OB told me a real concern would look more like 1 in 5. And I'm just thinking to myself, why couldn't the nuchal doctor who just said this, right? Like, just instead, like just really scaring me and thinking like, what to do?
Yeah.
So the first trimester nausea kicked in, and it wasn't the cute, like Netflix and nap kind. I had screen-induced nausea every single day. I didn't even know there was such thing. So I had red eyes, smudged mascara. It didn't help that my job was to sit in front of a computer for 10 plus hours. So my text messages would remain unread. I would spend endless hours on my couch looking at the ceiling and just counting down to bedtime. And as a vegetarian, I envisioned a leafy green pregnancy, just so beautiful. In reality, it was ramen and carbs. I kept up with my exercise. I was a runner, but I stopped running once my belly got too big. I felt like Charlotte in Sex and the City. I don't know if you watched it or know that episode. She had challenges conceiving. And so when she finally did get pregnant, she was a runner, but she feared that the baby would fall out while jogging. That's exactly how I felt, even with this belly support band. So everything was good. At 35 weeks, I had a little protein detected in my urine. So the doctor wanted to monitor me for preeclampsia. My feet looked like newly encased sausages, very plump and shiny. And then he decided, you know what, we're going to schedule a C-section at 38 weeks, which is considered full term for twins. Now, I wanted a VBAC. Twin A was head down, ready to go, but twin B was breached. And throughout this journey, the lesson that continued to humble me was I'm not in control as much as I want to be, and I'm type A. So on delivery day, I treated my breakfast like the Last Supper. I ate the last morsel right at 5 a.m. on the dot. I love to eat. My mom came with me to the hospital, and the staff was very strict as this was the midst of the COVID pandemic. We were constantly getting our temperatures taken. The OR was massive, and there were double the staff since I was having twins. The technician struggled with my spinal tap, which it took about 3 tries, so 3 jabs. I started shivering from the cold, which can be a side effect of the spinal tap. They had to give me 3 blankets. And you have to speak up too, because I was just thinking like, oh, well, maybe I just need to bear through this. This is part of it. No, you need to say you're cold and that you're freezing and you need another blanket. Yes, and another blanket.
Yeah.
And it was time, and I wish I could see what they were doing. But finally, I heard baby A cry. She was 5 pounds, 9 ounces. And 2 minutes later, baby B shrieked, and the doctor laughed. She was 6 pounds, 11 ounces, and kicked the doctor while being pulled out. So I felt pure joy. But I had lost more blood than expected. While holding baby B, I started to shake intensely that I had to hand her back to the nurse. I didn't trust myself to hold baby A because I was shaking so much. My blood pressure dropped. They stabilized me with medication, and I couldn't eat until 7 p.m. I was famished. On day 2, they took the Foley out and asked me to urinate. I never concentrated so hard and used all the tricks, tried whistling, turned on the sink water to no avail. They put the Foley back in and still no urine output. So I needed a blood transfusion. I knew that I was feeling lethargic, but I chalked it up to the C-section. Who wouldn't be sluggish after that major surgery? And not to mention that because of COVID, the nursery was closed. So everyone had advised me beforehand that when the nurses come to take the babies to the nursery, just say yes. But I didn't have that opportunity. So my mom and I cared for the 2 newborns post-surgery. It was a lot. But after my first unit of blood, I was feeling like a new person. And that second unit, it made me feel like $1 million. I'm indebted to the blood donors. I'm very thankful. We couldn't leave the hospital room at all due to the COVID protocols. One time my mom tried to go into the hallway, like the water fountain, to fill up her water bottle, and she was chastised for leaving the room. We had to call the nurse for everything and anything that we needed. But I was grateful that my mom was there because baby A started to choke, I think, on the first day. And my mom, she reacted so fast. She grabbed the bulb and suctioned her. And actually, baby A choked a few more times while we were at the hospital. On day 4, a nurse told us that we were being discharged. And I told her that I didn't feel comfortable going home without knowing why baby A kept choking. And the nurse, she dismissed me. She said, all babies choke. Okay, that flipped a switch in me. I will say before this, I wasn't sure if I had any maternal instincts. After her comment, the mama bear that I didn't know was inside, she made her debut. And I demanded to speak to the person in charge. And I looked the nurse in the eye and asked if she was willing to be responsible if my child had a choking incident at home. And that's my nugget number 4. Advocate for yourself and your babies, always. I refused to go home, and I was granted another night. And lo and behold, early the next morning, a doctor noticed that baby A, yes, the same one that was choking, looked jaundiced. She needed 6 hours of phototherapy. And later, we found out she had a tongue tie. So no, not all babies choke. Once I got home, I got into a routine. I would wake baby B first, breastfeed, burp, change, pray that baby A stayed asleep, and then do it all over again for baby A.
Yeah.
I fed her, second, since she had the tongue tie, it was very difficult for her to latch. And then after that, I would pump, then sleep. So I felt like I was only getting 30 minutes of sleep a night. It was really, really challenging. So after that, I decided just to pump exclusively. And there's nothing wrong with that. You're still a mom and you're still doing everything you're supposed to do. Because I know some mothers, they feel like, they let their child down, but it's not. You take care of yourself first.
Yeah.
So exactly 1 week later at 1 a.m., I passed a blood clot that was so large. I thought it was a baby. It was
Oh my gosh.
really, really big. And in the morning, and it was already morning, but like later on, I called the nurse and she said, if it happens again, go straight to the ER. And I'm thinking to myself, the ER, it's not that serious. I felt fine. I mean, just exhausted, and then plus with COVID still around, the last place I wanted to be was in the ER. I continued to pass more blood clots, but they weren't so big. The only thing, sometimes it would soak through my pants. So a couple of my friends, they urged that I go to the ER. And I finally did on an early Sunday morning. And they did a vaginal ultrasound that had me withering in pain. It hurt so badly. And they found clots, but said, it wasn't serious. So as I was waiting for the discharge papers, I'd gone back to the ER, my bed. I felt a sensation. So I was thinking to myself, let me go change my pad before driving home. And that is when the floodgates opened. I looked down and saw blood. It was like a horror movie. It wouldn't stop. I rang for the nurse and I saw the fear in her eyes and she yelled out, I need an ER doctor right now. And the ER doctor popped her head in and one look at me, she barked to the nurse, get the OB doctor to come immediately. Another nurse took off my pants and I was lying in a pool of blood. The OB doctor appeared and said that he was going to give me a pelvic exam while removing some clots. And the exam, oh my gosh, it pushed me to my pain threshold. And I have pretty high pain threshold. One of the angel nurses offered her hand and said that I could squeeze it as hard as I needed to. I then blurted out to no one in particular, I feel like I'm going to faint. I was so tired. I just wanted to close my eyes. I wanted to go to sleep. And the OB snapped, Connie, stay with me here. He proceeded to ask me questions to keep me awake. One of the nurses told me later that they kept having to take my blood pressure. And the last reading they were able to get was 50 over X. They couldn't get the bottom number, the diastolic number. And so they gave me the morphine and transferred me to labor and delivery for a blood transfusion. The plan was to give me medication to stop the blood. And if that didn't work, I would need a DNC. And thank the sweet baby Jesus, my body responded to both the medication and blood transfusion. I asked the OB what happened. And, he explained to me that my uterus wasn't contracting. So my uterus and vagina was building up with blood. The vaginal probe probably irritated my closed cervix and just caused all the blood to be released. He explained that, as an OB doctor, he deals with a lot of blood. They typically quantify blood in relation to body parts, like blood to your ankles, knees, waist. I had blood to my back. He said I was a classic textbook case study of how women die from childbirth, hemorrhaging, and in my case, postpartum hemorrhaging. If that had happened at home, I might not be here sharing this story. So, I just want to leave the listeners with my fifth and final nugget. Listen to the professionals. But most importantly, listen to your body. Even if you feel fine, pay attention. She may give you clues that she isn't. And, the female body is extraordinary, but it's also a vulnerable vessel of life. So this journey from egg freezing to motherhood has been the wildest, most humbling and beautiful ride of my life. And if you're going through any parts of this journey, I see you, you're not alone.
Yeah.
So that's my story. And I just want to thank you, Brent, for allowing me to tell my story.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing it. I want to ask about, what resources helped you, but also just what support you had along the way. Because we always talk about twins being so hard, period. So I'm sitting here going, okay, she had to go to the ER. She has twins. What's happening?
Yeah, my mom was here for 6 months. So she came 3 months before I was pregnant and then 3 months after.
Amazing.
And this was COVID. So I didn't trust anybody.
Yeah. Oh, that's so hard.
Yes. And I'm a single mom. So I tried hiring a nanny and that didn't work out. So it was like a lot of it, I really was doing solo. And I will say, if you are struggling, it's okay to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. And I am not the type of person, I struggle asking for help because I do think that I can do it all by myself. And you cannot,
Yeah.
especially when you're sleep deprived. You really have to ask for help. And so, I actually, during COVID, I actually went through a lot of nannies because it's just like the environment, it was just very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did have to ask for help with, hey, my cousin who lives in Chicago, can you just Uber Eats me some food? Like, I can't even think about that. Like, I'm in the middle of trying to pump and I got this child. Like, I can't even stop to look at my phone to order food, right? And, if someone was going to the store, can you please get some diapers for me or, formula or whatever it is that I needed. So yeah, I did. It was very hard. And I will openly admit, because I think a lot of women also don't like to share the bad parts, but it has scared me to where I'm like, I'm not having any more kids like this.
Yeah.
that stage was very, very difficult. And I had postpartum depression and anxiety. And so much that it lasted until really even to early this year. And like I said, my girls turned 5 in June and I still had anxiety and I did not address it. I finally did. And I am on medication now. So it's okay.
Yeah.
It is okay to take medication.
Mm-hmm.
And it has helped me tremendously.
Good. Yes. And I'm sorry you suffered for 5 years. That's not what we like to hear.
No, but it's COVID. But again, I think that now in hindsight, I probably would have asked for more help.
Yeah.
I did ask, but I probably should have done a lot more, and I did not.
Mm-hmm.
So that was on me. And again, now I have no problems.
Good.
But some resources. So I will say that at the time, because of COVID, a lot of it was online. Like I followed Twiniversity. There was a Manhattan Twins Club. I didn't have any of the resources for I wanted to take a breastfeeding course, like an in-person for twins, and I couldn't do that. So it was really difficult, but I did look at some articles. Like I mentioned, my story, That Last Chance, it's a long article, but it just showed that technology is not 100%. And to think how hard and difficult it is to create embryos and how so many embryos could be discarded and they might be okay. And again, I'm not saying don't get them tested, but it's just you just never know. And in the story, it talked about a woman who had so many embryos discarded. And when she finally took the chance of you know what, let's just go ahead and transfer this one, she had a healthy baby. And like I said, it's not all the time, but just do your research. But it's disheartening. So I did take that to heart.
Okay. Yeah.
And the other thing, like I said, in my introduction, I did write a book. I do this again is very high level, but I go into more details of the medications I took, again, when we talk about costs, I kind of go into the insurance, battling that. And, especially when you go to a clinic that's not within the network and how to proceed and all of that. So like I said, the title of the book is Searching for Tadpoles.
Yeah, definitely. Send me the link and we'll put that on the show notes. And then where's the best place for people to connect with you?
Sure. I have a website. It's ConnieRutherford.com. Or if you want to follow on Instagram and TikTok, it's the handle @SearchingForTadpoles.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Connie, for sharing.
Thank you so much. And I really hope that some of the details of my experience will help, one other person, one other one.
Yes, I'm confident they will. People will be reaching out, I'm sure.
Perfect.
Now I'm going to chat with Abigail about all the amazing things they have going on with Zenith Health. Hi, Abigail. Thanks so much for coming on the Birth Hour to talk with me about Zenith Health.
Thanks so much, Bryn. So excited to be here.
Before we get into that discussion, will you tell listeners just a little bit about you and your role with Zenith?
Yes. So I'm Abigail Bertelson. I'm the founder and CEO of Zenith. We're a newer company. We just launched earlier in the spring of 2025 and super excited to share a little bit more.
Awesome. And let's talk about just why you started Zenith and what it is.
Yes, definitely. We actually started Zenith just on the basic premise that it's so wild in 2025 that we still don't have good answers about some of the most basic questions in pregnancy. Things that I'm sure all of the listeners to the pod have gone through at some point. Is melatonin okay? What about Robitussin for my cough? Is it normal to gain this much weight by week 20? A really topical one that keeps coming up in the last few weeks with all of the discourse around SSRIs and antidepressants, right? Can I keep taking my SSRI while I'm trying to conceive and while I'm pregnant? And there's so much research and data missing, but we just looked at this and thought it doesn't have to actually be this way. There's millions of pregnancies in the US every single year, all of which contain thousands of these little experiences around medicines and symptoms, supplements, quality of life, all of these different aspects of pregnancy. But as an industry, we're not capturing or learning from this really effectively. A fun fact that is not that fun that I like to share is many people are surprised to learn that women weren't even required to be in clinical trials until 1993.
Yeah.
And pregnant women today are still excluded from trials pretty much altogether, which just means we have a ton of ground to make up on the research side in women's health generally, but particularly within pregnancy. And so what we've done is we've created 2 tools that moms can actually use in their pregnancy journeys for a little bit more peace of mind and to help empower other moms in the future with better data. So the first one is actually what we're calling the Pregnancy Evidence Project. It's a fully opt-in research study. It's fully observational, which means the cool thing is that you can actually contribute to research without changing anything about what you're doing or trying any experimental treatments, which is the beauty of learning from real-world experiences. And the second is what we're calling Penny, which is our personal pregnancy evidence navigator, hence the nickname for Penny. And you can ask Penny essentially any of your pregnancy questions wherever and whenever they come up to see the latest data and evidence. So Penny can help you cut through all of the noise of navigating across social media and Google searches and your friend's sister who just had a baby and did that thing and the baby was fine. So really trying to bring a bit more of the latest and greatest research papers and clinical guidelines and physician authored content to be more accessible and readily available to moms.
Very cool. So how have you seen people using Penny so far during pregnancy?
Yeah, we've seen lots of women turning to Penny for the late night panic Google type of questions. I'm trying to fall asleep. Can I take this melatonin? Things like my symptoms went away. Should I be super worried about that? Am I having postpartum anxiety or is this the normal baby blues? And a lot of moms have shared with us that it's super helpful to get these responses kind of in real time, to assuage the immediate fear, and then actually share the link and share the response that they're finding with their trusted team, whether that's their partner or their spouse, a doula that they might be working with, a midwife or an OB, to actually inform a more detailed discussion about their concerns or questions, because it's often kind of a two-sided thing where you want that immediate reassurance, but that doesn't fully, answer your question, or you might want to continue talking to your provider about it. And so in that vein, we've actually also been working with a lot of doulas and other birth workers who have themselves found Penny to be a really helpful tool in pulling, lots of evidence and kind of research papers in response to questions from their clients, or helping share Penny with their clients when they first get started as that kind of additional line of defense for, the random times at which these questions often come up.
Right. So it's kind of like asking like Chat GPT, but it's only pulling from evidence-based research, right?
Exactly. So it's only pulling from kind of our library of studies that we think are good, clinical guidelines, things that the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists is recommending. So we want it to be really that trusted source to get stuff that is high quality.
Yeah. And you mentioned postpartum. So is this something that supports people from like all aspects of trying to conceive, pregnancy, postpartum, or what's kind of the guideline there?
Yes, Penny is best for women who are currently pregnant, but we can also pull evidence around postpartum experiences. So we actually see a lot of folks use this for questions around breastfeeding and lactation exposures, as well as postpartum mental health questions and things like that. And we also support evidence focused on fertility and trying to conceive. So a lot of moms have questions about what to do in preparing for this pregnancy journey, which Penny supports as well. And the Pregnancy Evidence Project, which is the research side of things, also supports postpartum. So you can join even if you've already had your baby and share a little bit more about your experience after the fact.
Very cool. So speaking of the Pregnancy Evidence Project, how does that work? Can you just share a little bit more about, some of the things you guys are trying to bridge as far as gaps in pregnancy research?
Definitely. So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, we have a long way to go in women's health research and in pregnancy research. And a lot of this is because women have been excluded from clinical trials for so long, and particularly in pregnancy. And so our goal is really to learn from all of the things that are already happening today. We think it's this total misnomer that people say there's no data, we can't answer these questions, because we all probably know 10 moms who have made 10 different decisions on any given intervention or question, or had 10 versions of the same symptom. And so really how this project works is women can decide whether or not they want to opt in. It's fully optional. All of the data is completely private, firewalled, and segregated from the question asking side. So there's no, risk of your data being exposed to advertisers or used for marketing. It is purely governed by an institutional review board research project. And women can basically share brief surveys on a weekly and trimester level basis, just talking about their symptoms that week, their quality of life, any major exposures they had. So things like women with chronic conditions who might be continuing medications that they're using, acute issues or, illnesses that come up during pregnancy, asking women if they took, for example, Zofran for nausea or, Unisom or B6 or some of these really commonly used remedies. And women can also consent to share their medical record data so that ultimately we have this very robust data set that looks at experiences and health outcomes for mom and baby at birth so that we can all answer the question that's on everyone's mind, which is really, does doing X affect how baby is going to feel and how baby is growing and how mom is going to feel. And so we're really excited because we think that by taking this approach, we can get to much more scale than, any of the research projects that have really happened in pregnancy before, so that we can finally have high enough sample sizes to power really, really interesting analyses around how other moms are going through pregnancy and being able to share that information back with both moms, but also researchers and the teams that are trying to publish, hopefully, better research on this for the future.
Yeah, this is so exciting. It feels very grassroots, and I love that anyone can get involved. And where can people go to do that?
Yeah, definitely. People can check out our website at www.zenithhealth.io. That's a great landing page to check out either Penny if you have a question that you want to ask, or start getting involved with the Pregnancy Evidence Project. The Pregnancy Evidence Project does have a fairly lightweight, what's called informed consent process. So we want to make sure that as people are joining, they're fully aware of what they're signing up to, how their data is going to be used and protected, how it will be used kind of down the line. And once you do that, you can start submitting surveys and sharing your experience.
Awesome. And with the Penny aspect, there's no cost involved with that, right?
No cost. One of our core values of the company is that we really want to make all of this information more accessible and transparent to moms. It's really frustrating to see sometimes the cost associated with getting access to better knowledge and, finding a research paper, but it's behind a $75 paywall. So it's really important to us to democratize this access for folks who are looking for really good information.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, I'm so glad I got to hear more about this and share with my listeners, and I'm excited to see where everything goes with Penny and with the project.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bryn.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much again to Connie for sharing her birth story with us, and to Zenith Health for sponsoring this episode. I wanted to share that Zenith has a new app, which I will link to from the show notes as well as in the podcast notes where you're listening to this episode. But you can also just search for Zenith Health in the App Store or go to zenithhealth.io and it'll link you over to the App Store. And it's a really great, easy interface to use. So be sure to check that out. To find the show notes page, you just go to thebirthhour.com and search for Connie's name.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, head to thebirthhour.com and click Become a Member to pledge your support. And as a thank you, you'll get an invitation to join our private Facebook group and access to exclusive episodes. Your vote of confidence and support means the world to me.